She-Hulk, her friend asks her, does that mean you're going to be part of the Avengers? And what does she say? No, it's for narcissists. But then the whole show that follows is entirely revolved around her dating life, her wardrobe for some reason, her career. The whole thing is about her. How is that not a narcissistic endeavor?
To be perfectly clear and upfront, She-Hulk targets the female population with the flair of a Disney teen show. The prospect of watching one of those wilts my willy to worrisome levels. But what the hell, it's still a piece of film with people talking to other people in mostly the same language, which is indeed what most films and stories are, so fuck it, let's get after it.
I do it infinitely more than you.
Forget it, I don't want to do this. Just to give you lads an idea, one of the plot lines in this show is two characters going on a side mission to find a designer and make him design an outfit for She-Hulk. We watch these characters roam around town from coffee shop to secret merch store to apartment complex, buying Avengers merch along the way, of course. The self-absorbed meta references have gotten beyond masturbatory at this point, as they trek in search of the plot, I guess, because there's precious little of that going around. It's you being dragged to the mall by your over-enthusiastic girlfriend, and if that sounds like fun to you, congratulations! This is the show for you. By the way, can you please kill me? Marvel doesn't seem to understand its own character. Bruce is amazed that Jennifer doesn't have an alter ego after hulking out, when the only reason why Bruce has that is because of his fractured psyche, which is only explicitly stated in the comics, true, but it makes sense. It has nothing to do with the superpower itself. It comes from trauma. Jennifer has no such trauma, so it makes sense that she wouldn't have another personality vying for control. Another thing they don't understand is how alcohol works, because Hulks can't get drunk, they say, which defeats the purpose of drinking. Despite the flavor of a cocktail, the texture of beer, or the rich bouquet of a wine, that's not why you down this swill. You drink to get drunk. But the more confusing part is Hulks still get hangovers despite metabolizing alcohol so fast that they don't get drunk. It doesn't really make sense that an indestructible juggernaut would have the extreme metabolism and healing necessary to avoid intoxication, but not barfing or a hangover. Stomach irritation seems like a condition that a Hulk should not get, is what I'm saying. Imagine looking up the Hulk's stats and seeing strength, invulnerability, weakness, gastritis.
We have to make sure of your ability to tolerate distress and regulate your emotions, especially your anger.
I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. When I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day, because if I don't, I will get called emotional or difficult, or might just literally get murdered. So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
Fuck me brainless. It's a good thing women control their anger, otherwise we'd have to kill them all. Are you hearing yourself? This is just wrong. Anger management is tied to strength. If you are a woman and you get enraged, nothing happens. If you are a man and get enraged, you could hurt someone and go to jail. Furthermore, men are better at reining in emotions because we were designed to do so, while the ladies were designed to be more empathetic, maternal, and social, and to empty credit cards. They were designed to express emotions, not hide them. Claiming that you, as a woman, are required to have more control over your anger than men, and that you are much better equipped to do so, is not just wrong, it's the opposite of what's true. If you're not physically dangerous, no one cares that you're angry. If you are physically dangerous, everyone's wary of you. That's when you learn to exercise restraint, because you have to. This show tries to minimize the action as much as it can, which is a shame, because whenever it does indulge in a little fisticuffs, it's pretty damn good. The fight between the cousins, as well as the ones with Daredevil, are standouts. They're also about 80% of the action in the whole show, which I get, I really do. Women's show and all that. Let's break the mold and do something different. But making a Hulk show with no action is kind of like making a Superman film where all he does is plant tomatoes.
Actually, Blonsky wrote me a really nice letter. That fight was so many years ago, I'm a completely different person now. Literally.
Nice one. I will say I like the idea of the show. I like lawyer shows, I like watching court cases, a superhero sprinkle on that seems fine, and I have gone on record saying over and over again that slice of life is hard to do, but can be very engaging if done right. The only question is whether She-Hulk did it right, and No. The problem with the court cases is that despite all the fancy lawyer lingo they throw at you, all the cases get resolved almost as soon as they're introduced, and generally take about an eighth of an episode, so it comes across not so much as storytelling, but padding, filling out the time. And the problem with the superhero elements is that the show is openly embarrassed by them, and tries to de-emphasize them at every turn instead of trying to get creative with them. So instead of excelling at the two foundational elements of the show, they made them as token and reductive as possible, which strikes me as missing the forest for the trees, or the galaxy for the stars, rather. While this isn't as offensively bad as I've been led to believe, it's still the kind of show that you'd mostly watch with your girlfriend for your girlfriend, only for her to say at the end, yeah, we should have banged instead. I find it funny how they consider a guy approaching women in the real world deplorable and then proceed to swipe right on Tinder right after, the thing that's been documented to ruin dating in the real world and make guys stop approaching girls in real life. It's at once an accurate portrayal of reality and extremely self-unaware. By the way, can someone explain Tinder to me? It's swipe right, right?
I finally meet a guy who's sweet and is very, very hot. Not that that matters, but it does.
Accurate. It's very light, I guess. More popcorn and soda than steak and red wine. And that's my main disappointment with it. Each episode is treated more like a punchline than an engaging story, or like a difficult case that she's trying to solve, or any kind of lasting predicament that would compel you to tune into the next episode and then the next one after that. So it lacks a lot of the engagement that the more engrossing, long-running shows have, which is fine. Not every show has to be a Mad Men, a Breaking Bad, or a Game of Thrones, an edge-of-your-seat, long-running 12-course meal that leaves you feeling stuffed by the end. She said it, not me. Light is good, but then every other dimension of the show has to be top-notch, like the humor. And while a 14-year-old modern-minded girl might find the show quite humorous, I didn't laugh one bit. But then I am completely jaded. And I need to emphasize this point. This is not a guy's show. It's not meant for us. What am I doing here again? There are things that the ladies will relate to, like, I forgot what they were, but they're in there. I remembered one. The bit where she gets with a guy and then assumes he died in a ditch because he hasn't texted her in 2 days. That's not just a scene, that's raw truth, brother. And these little touches might make it worth watching for the more estrogen dominant of you. Oh, by the way, ladies, if you're looking for a cool, suave character to swoon over, you'll have to settle for Daredevil. Everyone else ranges from self-absorbed colleague to self-absorbed writer, self-absorbed psycho-fan, self-absorbed powerlifter, self-absorbed divorcee, and of course, self-absorbed magician. I need a moment to recover from all this staggering innovation. No, I don't. If this is how women see men nowadays, you can kiss your happy ending bye-bye. There's no coexisting with these kinds of preconceptions. But it's okay, look, we've gotten past the halfway point. Things are heating up, so it's time to go experience one of my favorite things in the world, a wedding. But let's circle back to Woody Allen over here, because this highlights another problem I have with the show, and this is too pathetic to call a spoiler, so bear with me. This guy comes in and asks these lawyers to handle a divorce settlement on his behalf, but it's not between him and his ex-wife, it's between him and his 8 ex-wives, or however many they were. And you know what happens next? Nothing. Nothing happens next. They settle the case. Let me explain exactly why this is infuriating. It's normal for shows to have subplots like this, involving the supporting cast and a bunch of one-off guest characters. That's fine. But usually these subplots have a point, a story, however small, to tell. That's why they're called subplots. But the subplots in this film do not have a story to tell. There is no point, no moral of the story, because there is no story and these aren't really subplots. They're a big pile of nothing. They are the literal definition of filler, which is somewhat insulting to filler material because even filler arcs and seasons have a fucking plot. And this guy is the perfect example of that. The main plot of the episode in question is a wedding, which is already a boring affair in fucking real life, don't pretend otherwise. And to complement the boring main plot, they tacked on this boring and pointless subplot to pad out the time. This guy walks in, they talk about doing a divorce settlement, and then they do a divorce settlement, with the most potentially interesting part of it, i.e. negotiating with and persuading all of the parties involved to accept said settlement, happening mostly off-screen and during a quick montage. That's why I wanted to mention exactly what happens as if I'm telling a story, because that's the best way to realize if you have a shit subplot or not. If you tell people about your story like a friend would tell a joke or tell you about their day or about something that happened to them recently, and if it ends with you asking, "That's it?" then you know that your story is crap. Stories have a point to them, whether they're little anecdotes from your friends or a grand theater play. Even the tiniest of subplots need a reason to exist, a sum that is greater than its component parts. Don't touch me, they need to know this shit. I have been ranting about this for a long time. This is what Marvel does. It teases shit it doesn't deliver on. It wastes your time with pointless side quests. By the way, if you want to watch an actual lawyer show with actual lawyering and subplots that's actually funny and quirky, fucking watch Ally McBeal. I'm done with this fucking... It's funny to me that Jennifer Shehulk Walters, who can jump up a cliff, can't leave this guy's overexpensive farmyard because her car broke down. It would take 3 jumps to get to the nearest town. You can quite literally hopscotch there. But no, Hulk's gotta use a car. And wouldn't you know it, as soon as Daredevil shows up, the script becomes kinda engaging. And there's actual action happening. Not just action scenes, but actions. Things moving from A to B. And there is now an actual character in the show, instead of a caricaturized male or a feminist female or a token sitcom friend. Guess this is where all the brainpower went. Thanks, show. You could have just told me to watch episode 8 and not faff about with the rest. I'll go ahead and give the ending some points for trying to be creative. The only 2 problems are A, it gets even more meta-referential in the process, shoving itself up its own ass, but having fun with it at least, and B, it kills the finale in the process. There was a plot happening, and in pure She-Hulk fashion, it just cuts to the end. I can't make this shit up, so I guess the best way to describe She-Hulk is premise, finale, but no substance, or foreplay, afterglow, but no climax.